Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Mariah and I talk about books and bookish things on my channel. If you're returning, thank you so much. I just hit 50 subscribers and if you have any ideas of what to do to celebrate the 50 subscribers, please leave that down in the comments below. This is just a quick introduction to the second part of my wrap up for July. It was 19 books. It was really long, so I decided to split up into two pieces. This is going up a little bit late on Sunday just because I had a midterm due and you have to prioritize, right? It's late at night. I just finished my midterm, so that's the way I look. So I'm going to go back to past Mariah so you can watch that video. I hope you guys enjoy. Next I read Goliath Girls by Sam Humphries, Alti Fermancia, Brittany Peer, Jody Wine, Sarah Talmadge, and Janine Schaefer. This is a comic series that tells the story of these monster hunters called the Goliath Girls, who are hunting kaiju, which is Godzilla's a kaiju. Mothra, kaiju. Mothman, cryptid, not kaiju. Kaiju just means giant monster. And they do that with the help of machinery and with their own pet kaiju, who they're all obsessed with. It was a super quick read, super cute. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Comics are really hard unless they're bound up to really get into, unless you want to sit and read like 10 volumes or 10 issues. I find it easier to read a larger volume where it's bound up. That's just me. This satisfied the diverse graphics Lost-A-Thon prompt. Next I read the first issue, or the first collection of Lumberjanes by Noelle Stevenson. I'm going to be reading another of her work this month, or in August, Monae. This is Lumberjanes. It was called Beware the Kitten Holy. It was super cute. It also satisfied the diverse graphics prompt. It could have also been for pride, and it could have been for empowerment, and I would say women of color, WOC as well. I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars. It was super cute. It was a super fast read. I loved the art style. It was really quirky and unique. I loved all of the characters. I thought they were great. I loved the idea behind the Lumberjanes. That was a really cute idea. The idea is these girls, I think there's 6 of them. 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 of them. These 5 girls are at the Lumberjanes camp, which is kind of like Girl Scouts, but different. They get badges and stuff. And they're at the summer camp, and they get dragged into all these adventures because they're always looking for mischief. And it's great. And their poor camp counselor. I really enjoyed this. I loved the fact that there were so many different types of characters. There was no one was shoved into this stereotype of what they should be. You had one girl who was super nerdy but didn't look it. You had a really cute couple, which I'm surprised it's not listed here, but there was a really cute couple. There was the camp owner. It was a super cute webcomic type thing, graphic novel. It was definitely, I think it's considered a comic because they were individual issues that were bound up. However, I really suggest you pick it up if you want something that's cute and quirky and quick to read, not super serious. It's fun and adventurous. Pick it up. Next, I read Fry Bread, a Native American family story, and I read this specifically for the Mirrors and Windows, which is a picture book. This is a story about fry bread and how important fry bread is to Native American cultures and how it represents a history and making do with what you have and how it brings people together. I don't look it, but my great-grandfather was full-blooded Navajo. My grandmother was half, and my mom's a fourth, and I'm an eighth. We aren't really affiliated with the tribe. My great-grandfather made the decision to leave with my great-grandmother, who was Irish and was a war bride. He served in World War II. And he left the reservation and he set up his own construction company and everything. So I grew up, but towards the end of his life, he moved back down towards the reservation in Arizona. And so I grew up visiting my grandmother, who lived near the reservation and on the reservation at times. It's not something I really talk about, not because I'm ashamed of my heritage, but because there are people who still live on the reservation and have that as part of their day-to-day life that is very important to them. Please go listen to Indigenous voices. I will leave some down below. Please check them out. And this book touched me because I grew up eating fry bread. I grew up eating specifically Navajo fry bread and then Navajo tacos, which is a piece of flatbread that has a beef stew chili type mix over the top of it that has lettuce and tomatoes and cheese. Navajo tacos. Oh, and onions. Can't forget the onions. They're delicious. I miss them desperately. I'm on the East Coast now, so I never get them. And people look at me like I'm crazy whenever I talk about them. But this is very, it's a very cute book. It's a super quick read, but it's very impactful, and it talks about the long walk, and it talks about the history and how, and at the end there's actually explanations on each page and why that page was put in, and even a recipe for for fry bread, which I might try out. But it was a reminder of home. It was super cute, and it meant a lot to me. And it was really, I think it's really important to read diverse picture books to kids. If you're looking for a cute book that's super impactful and has a good message behind it, pick up Fry Bread. I think I gave that 4 out of 5 stars, or 5 out of 5. I rated it very highly. Next I read The Magician's Lie, which by Greer McAllister, which satisfied the historical fiction prompt. I guess it could also satisfy the empowerment prompt. I've spoken on this channel before about how I'm not a huge fan of historical fiction. So when I saw this prompt and I decided I had made the goal to complete all the prompts, I thought, yeah, sure, I'll just read this one. It's fine. It also satisfied the buddy read prompt because I buddy read this with my friend Julia, and she felt really bad because I ended up really not liking this book. Sorry, I gave this 3 out of 5 stars, but it was a low 3 out of 5 stars. It was more like a 2.75 out of 5 stars. Not because of the premise. The premise sounded great. So the idea is the amazing Arden, who is a female illusionist, is arrested for her husband's murder. And she sets out to try to convince the police officer that arrested her that she's innocent. And you're trying to figure out like if she's telling the truth or not. And this book, the police officer was an idiot and wasn't really likable at all, at least for me. I didn't really like the way that it was told or the way that it was written. It was less of a mystery and more of a life story with magical realism sprinkled in it. So that was weird. You never really get a satisfying conclusion to the book, I didn't think. I mean, again, I'm not a historical fiction fan. I was there more for the mystery thriller aspect of it instead of really the historical, like, life story fiction aspect of it. It was cool because it mentioned the Biltmore, which I actually have always wanted to go to and live not super far from. Not my favorite. Not my favorite at all this month. However, if you're really into that, I would, if you want the mystery thriller, less mystery thriller-ish and more like magical realism, life story-ish, I would recommend this book. It just wasn't for me. Oh wow. I actually read 18 books, just found out, because I realized I had one sitting here that wasn't in my story graph. So I read 18 books this month. Holy crap. Okay, the next book I read was, I don't really know if you can see this beautiful color, but Akata Witch by Nnedi Okorafor. This was good. This was so good. So this is YA, this is middle grade YA, and it can easily bridge the gap between. It's either young adult, or it's older middle grade. I would say 7th grade and up, maybe even like 6th grade and up. This satisfied the prompt of diverse author, set in Africa. It's set in Nigeria. It also satisfies the walk a mile prompt. The main character, Sunny, is albino. Black speculative fiction, specifically African Judaism, which was fascinating. It also, book recommended to you. My friend Julia read this. Characters of every color. Middle grade melting pot. Mythology. This tells the story of Sunny Nwazu, who is an American-born Nigerian girl who lives in Nigeria now with her family and is an albino. She's kind of treated very poorly by and ostracized by society because she's an albino, but she's also kind of ostracized by her own family. She doesn't really have a place where she fits. Until one day she meets Chi-Chi and Orlu. Chi-Chi is a girl that has known Orlu his whole life, and Sunny goes to school with Orlu. And come to find out, Sunny is part of a people known as the Jaguar people, who are magic users. And everybody has their own distinct magic ability. And it's based off of African Juju and West African identities and folklore, and was so good. The three are joined by a boy named Sasha, whose parents are Nigerian, but he grew up in America, and he's sent because he gets into trouble. And there are various levels that they have to ascend through as they get older, and you kind of get to follow Sunny as she discovers this magical world and how she finds her place. And what I really loved about this book, other than the fact that it was just a really cute magic book that also had some really terrifying portions to it, which was so good. But it also, the magic that people have a talent for in this book is based off what makes them unique. So for instance, Sunny is an albino, so she has the ability, she has 1 foot in the spirit world and 1 foot squarely in the physical world, and because of this, so anything that would require kind of crossing that boundary, she has a natural talent for. And it's so good. I loved this book. I'm really looking forward to when my little sister gets older and I can give her a copy, because this spoke about friendship and how friendship can become more than friendship, and found family, and how being unique is a power in and of itself. And I think that's very, very important to remember. I'm going to probably try and read everything this author has ever written because it's so good. The second book, Akata Warrior, is out now. And just pick it up and read it. It's so good. Especially if you want something that has that magical kids feel to it. Akata Witch. And then Akata Warrior, and I think she's working on the third book. So good. Next I read The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. I can't speak French, I'm sorry. Translated by Richard Howard. The Little Prince is a children's classic. It's like 93 pages long. It was first published in 1943, which is amazing because France was occupied by Germany at the time. And it tells the story of a pilot who is stranded in the desert and comes across the Little Prince. The Little Prince is from a distant planet, where he has to take care of a flower. He has to, oh, sorry, I got an injection into my knee and it's making this very hard to film. Where he takes care of his flower and he has to uproot the baobab trees and he has to rake out his volcanoes every day. And how he gets tired of the vanity of the flower and of the pettiness and the shallowness of the flower. So he leaves his little planet and goes and visits other planets. And it talks about vanity and greed and how people get so busy that they forget what's around them. And it talks about friendship and loss. And it was really cute. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It worked for the working translation prompt. Next I read The Call, which is the first book in the Greyland series by Peter O'Gillion. Peter O'Gillion. And this satisfied the prompt protagonist with a disability. The main character has been afflicted by polio and her legs are twisted because of that. This tells a story of an Ireland in modern day that has been cut off from the rest of the world by the Shiva. And 25 years before the book starts, one day all technology died in Ireland. The Shiva cloaked the whole island in mist. All of the ferries showed up empty of people. Planes dropped out of the skies. Anybody trying to leave Ireland was captured and twisted by the Shiva. Now, you may know the Shiva by another name. They're the fair folk, the little people, the friendly neighbors. And this blended Irish folklore and mythology with a horror setting. So the idea is the Shiva are now taking adolescents from the ages of 14 up. And so in order to try to increase their ability to survive, families now send their children from the age of 10 to survival colleges where they're trained to be warriors, where they're trained in the Shiva language, where they're trained in the Shiva, they're trained in the land. Now, the idea, this needs a little explanation. So the idea is the Shiva were the original inhabitants of Ireland, specifically the Tuatha De Danann, or the people of Danu, were the original inhabitants, and they were forced under the mounds, so the big burial mounds. They were forced under the mounds by the ancestors of the modern day Irish people with an unfair treaty, and that is chronicled in the Book of Conquests. Now the Sheatha are striking back. They want to return to the Land of Many Colors, and they don't want to be stuck in the Grey Lands anymore. So you're following this girl Nessa, who, because nobody has access to the outside world or anywhere outside of Ireland anymore, you're forced to. She wasn't able to get a polio vaccine, and because of that, she's afflicted by polio, and when she's into survival college, nobody thinks she's going to survive, but she is convinced she's going to. So she kind of shuts off all of her emotions, or tries to, and she just focuses on surviving. So it's all of the drama of a boarding school with the terror of knowing your friends are going to be taken in what's called the Call, which that's the name of the book, and that there's a 10% chance they're going to survive. Things I really loved about this book, the blending of the two, the fact that it was actually read by an Irish woman, so the accents of the various counties and the various cities were actually represented really well, that you get this fascinating description of the Sheatha and why that's important to Irish history and why that's important to Irish mythology, but you also get to hear the names of the old gods like Lugh and Danu and Crom, which were great. And then you also get this, once a call occurs to one of the characters that is having the book, you follow them through the Grey Land, and you have to figure in those chapters you find out if they lived or died and what happens afterwards. I loved this book so much. I didn't think I was gonna like it, but it's a fairy story, it's a war story, it's a protagonist with a disability, it's a fascinating look at what would happen if we were forced to adapt to a world without technology. And it was good. It was so good. I can't. Actually, I haven't been able to stop thinking about this book since I finished listening to it. It was so good. I think I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. If you're looking for a book where it's a protagonist with a disability, but she still kicks ass, pick up this book. So good. Very good. I also read, I think this was during the weekend for Becca's BookoplAThon, Mrs. Jeffries and 3 Wise Women by Emily Brightwell. This is number 36? Yeah, something like that. In the Mrs. Jeffries series, which tells the story of a housekeeper in Victorian England and members of the household who help the inspector that they work for solve mysteries, but secretly. So I loved the book. Another book in this series that I borrowed from my friend Kim. Thank you, Kim, if you're watching. And this tells, this happens over Christmas, or right before Christmas, and the idea is that there was a murder on Guy Fawkes Night, which is November 5th for all of us in the U.S., and the investigation is bungled. So you trace this back, or it goes forward, and it still hasn't been solved, so the Inspector Witherspoon is brought in on the case, and the whole household is very disappointed because they all had Christmas plans, and it doesn't look like this mystery is going to get solved. And as usual, this book actually kept me guessing. I could not figure out for the life of me who the killer could be. There was a bunch of different suspects. All of them had valid reasons. I appreciated the discussion about not wanting to do your job because you were looking forward to things and your plans got changed, because that happens to me a lot, unfortunately. But I also really just enjoyed the cozy mystery aspect of it. These books aren't hard to read, but they're very, very good. They often have a wide variety of characters, each of whom is very unique and plays an important role. I really think I'm going to go and pick up the first book in the series and start reading from there, because like I said, this is in the 30s now. That satisfied International Sleuth's prompt on the Lost-A-Thon TBR. Hi everybody, Monae from the future here. So I actually finished another book last night, so that puts the total up to 18 books for the month of July, and I read Witchy by Ariel Slamet-Rees. This is a graphic novel. I think it's set in an Indonesian inspired world where the power of a witch is based off the length of her hair. And our main character, Monae, is his father was killed by what are called witch burners, who are sent from the Empire, or the Empire, to kill witches whose hair has become too long. And she decides to hide the length of her hair, and that's kind of where the story takes off. I don't want to reveal too much. There is LGBTQIA plus representation in this, with one of the characters being a trans woman, or a trans girl. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I read it really quickly. The art style is really beautiful and unique, and I highly recommend it if you're looking for something else to pick up. This could have worked for diverse graphics for the Lost-A-Thon Lost-A-Thon readathon, or Love is Love, or Empowerment, or Pride, great book, or Woman of Color, or Diverse Author. All of the prompts. And that wraps up the 18 books. I can't believe I read 18 books, which means I'm at 67 books for the year, which my goal was 52. So I'm really happy. I'm really happy with the progress so far. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I have 13 books on August TBR. If you're interested in looking at that, that video went up the video before last. In the month of August, I am participating in Draconathon, but there are a lot of readathons going on in August. There's the Wiccathon, which is about supporting Filipino authors and stories, which, if you don't know what's going on in the Philippines right now, there was this anti-terror law that just went into effect that essentially eliminated free press in the Philippines. There's also the Black Lives Matter still, or diversify your shelves. Readathons going on. That I'll leave these links down below. That is just literally a diverse reading bookathon. It has Latinx, Black, Indigenous, East Asian, and South Asian, and Middle Eastern all represented in this. I really wanted to participate, but I have 13 books on my TBR. So if I manage to get through the books on my TBR, you can be sure I will be picking up a few books for that, including Mexican Gothic, which is an Own Voices Gothic horror novel set in Mexico in the 1950s. The Only Good Indians, which is a horror novel written by an Indigenous author about Indigenous characters, which also sounds amazing. As I said before, I will leave a link down to booktubers that you should check out down below. If you liked this, you can please like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this. If you are interested in following me elsewhere, you can find me on my blogs. Not this week, I took this week off, but next week, most weeks I'm there Monday and Friday. I'm here on YouTube Thursdays and Sundays, and I am on Twitter almost every day. I really need to start posting to Instagram again too, so I'll leave that down below as well. I'm at Mariah Notes or Mariah's Nerdy Notes on Instagram, are at Mariah Notes or Mariah's Nerdy Notes on Twitter. I am at Mariah's Nerdy Notes on Instagram. My blog is mariahsnerdynotes.wordpress.com. All the best coffee, wine, and books to you. Cheers.